A joyous wedding took place, but the happiness didn't last long. On her wedding night, the young bride began to change. A terrifying mystery was unveiled, and with a dark curse, she transformed into a giant snake. Once upon a time, in Africa, there was a beautiful and fertile land called Tajanda, where a community existed in harmony, with humans and mystical creatures living together. There was a village named Dodo, home to a young girl named Abba, who was renowned for her natural beauty and gentle nature. Abba, with her sparkling eyes and tender smile, was loved by all. She caught the attention of many young men in the village. They often tried to win her affection, and many times they would say to her, "Abba, you are the most beautiful girl I have ever met. Would you like to be my wife?" However, Abba always responded politely, "Thank you, but I am not ready to get married yet." Every morning, Abba came to the market to sell the fruits and vegetables she had carefully selected. She always offered the best produce, and there wasn't a single person in the village who didn't enjoy buying from her. But there was one strange thing. None of her customers knew where Abba lived. The villagers often saw her arriving at the market very early and leaving before sunset, which made them curious about her life outside the market. They would whisper to one another, "Where does Abba live? Does she have a secret home somewhere in the village?" But Abba never revealed her secret. She was content with her private life and only opened up to a few people she truly trusted. On a warm, sunny day, as the first rays of light filtered through the leaves, a handsome young man named Oluda arrived at the Dodo village market. He was looking for fresh vegetables for his family. When his eyes accidentally met Abba's, his heart skipped a beat for a moment. Oluda stood still, unable to take his eyes off her beauty. He thought to himself, "She is truly a masterpiece. How can someone be so beautiful?" Oluda quickly approached her and greeted, "Hello? My name is Oluda. What's your name?" Abba smiled gently and replied, "I'm Abba. Is there anything you'd like to buy?" Oluda was overjoyed to have the chance to talk to her. He bought some fruits and decided to stay a little longer to chat. They talked about the weather, the harvest, and the news around the village. Abba's gentle words and friendly smile made Oluda feel a strange connection. He started coming to the market every day, not just to buy produce, but to see Abba. They became friends, and Oluda felt his heart gradually being drawn into love. One evening, as the market was about to close and dusk had fallen, Oluda realized it was getting late. He noticed Abba packing up her goods and offered, "Let me walk you home. It's not safe to go alone in the dark." Abba hesitated for a moment, but Oluda insisted, and eventually she agreed. As they began walking, the sky grew darker, and a cold wind swept through the trees. Suddenly, Oluda felt a chilling sensation run down his spine, as if an invisible hand had just touched him. He turned around, but there was no one behind him. His heart raced, and an inexplicable fear welled up inside him. He looked towards Abba, who continued walking calmly ahead, seemingly unaffected by the eerie atmosphere. Oluda felt uneasy and decided to stop. "Abba, I think we should turn back. It's getting dark quickly, and I don't want anything bad to happen," he said with concern in his voice. Abba turned back, her eyes filled with sympathy, and she spoke gently. "If you're feeling scared, you can head back first. I'll be fine on my own." Her smile seemed to reassure him, but it wasn't enough to dispel the fear lingering in Oluda's heart. With his heart pounding, he nodded and quickly turned around, running back to the village. He didn't stop until he reached his home. From that night on, Oluda never returned to the market to see Abba again. The fear of that strange sensation he had experienced remained vivid in his mind. Though she missed him dearly, Abba continued her peaceful life in the village, selling her goods and treating everyone with kindness. The villagers began to wonder why Oluda, once a cheerful young man who frequented the market, had suddenly stopped coming. But no one knew the secret of that night. What the villagers didn't know was that Abba was not an ordinary girl as they had thought. In reality, She came from a mystical forest deep beyond the village of Dodo. In this forest, she lived with her family, who were not human. Her family possessed the ability to transform into various forms, taking on different shapes as they wished. However, Abba was the only one in her family who could maintain a stable human form. Although they loved their daughter dearly, her parents were always worried about her interactions with the outside world. They constantly warned her, "Abba, you must never marry a human. Our world and theirs are too different, and it would only bring trouble." When Oluda began showing special interest in Abba, her parents grew increasingly anxious. They didn't want their daughter to fall in love with a human, so they decided to scare him away. The cold hand Oluda felt on his back that night was the work of Abba's family, a small trick to make him stay away from her. Abba felt deeply saddened. She truly liked Oluda and wanted to have friends in the village. She didn't want to be controlled by her family forever. She longed for freedom, to make her own choices, and to live among humans. After much contemplation, Abba made a big decision. She decided to leave her family in the forest and stay in the village of Dodo. One day, with a heavy heart, Abba ventured deep into the forest to say goodbye to her family. Standing before her parents, she said, "I love you all, but I want to live my own life. I want the freedom to choose my own future." Her parents were very sad, but they understood their daughter's wishes. Before letting her go, they gave her one final warning. "Be careful, Abba. The world out there is harsh, and it may never accept you the way you hope it will." With a heavy heart, Abba left the forest and moved to live in the village of Dodo. She hoped to find happiness and perhaps even love in the world of humans. She continued her work as a market vendor, keeping her past a secret. The villagers only knew Abba as a beautiful and kind girl from the market, unaware of the magical world she had left behind. The new life brought Abba a mix of freedom and fear. She was happy to finally live her own life, but at the same time, she knew it wouldn't be easy. To ensure she wouldn't be pulled back into her family's world, Abba decided to seek out an ancient shrine in the village, a place said to be home to a powerful spirit named Zinga. This spirit was known for helping those who wished to find a different path in life. Abba stepped into the shrine and knelt before Zinga's altar. She spoke in a soft yet determined voice. "Great Zinga, I wish to sever all ties with my family. I want to live freely in the village of Dodo, far from their control." Zinga appeared in a gentle light and listened to Abba's request. The spirit nodded and said, "I understand your desire, Abba. I will grant you the freedom you seek. But remember, your family will not be pleased. They may try to curse you to bring you back." With a brave heart, Abba nodded. "I understand, and I still want to proceed," she said. Zinga raised his hand and granted Abba her wish. With a gentle breeze, the bond between Abba and her family was severed. But just as Zinga had warned, when her family realized they had lost their connection to Abba, they became furious. Her mother, in a fit of rage and sorrow, cast a curse upon her. She whispered into the wind, "May you never find happiness among humans. May all those you love abandon you in despair." Despite the curse, Abba chose to stay in the village of Dodo. She continued her life as before, selling goods at the market and interacting with the people around her. Abba was determined to live a life of freedom, even if it meant facing the curse and countless other challenges. She remained kind and gentle, hoping that one day, someone would see beyond the curse and love her for who she truly was. One day, a renowned merchant named Dubi arrived in the village of Dodo. Dubi traveled from village to village, trading in beautiful fabrics and splendid clothing. He was friendly and charming, quickly winning the admiration of many in the village. When Dubi saw Abba at the market, he was captivated by her beauty and grace. He wondered, "Who is this beautiful girl?" With a big smile, he approached and said, "Hello, I'm Dubi. I travel far and wide selling beautiful fabrics. You must be Abba, the one everyone speaks about." Abba smiled and replied, "Yes, that's me. It's a pleasure to meet you, Dubi." Dubi was captivated by her gentle voice and kind eyes. He started coming to the market more often, always stopping by Abba's stall to chat and share laughter. Dubi found himself falling in love with Abba, and after some time, he decided he wanted to marry her. With excitement, he said to Abba, "Abba, I care for you deeply. Will you marry me and come live with my family?" Abba, who had become cautious about love due to her painful past experiences, felt a glimmer of hope. She agreed to meet Dubi's family. Dubi was overjoyed and took her to his village to introduce her to his parents. Dubi's mother had heard rumors about Abba's mysterious past and the strange events surrounding her. She looked at Abba with a frown, thinking, "This girl is beautiful, but there's something off about her." After talking with Abba for a while, Dubi's mother shook her head. "I'm sorry, Dubi, but I don't trust this girl. There's a curse around her. She's not suitable for our family," she said firmly. Dubi was shocked and saddened. He cared deeply for Abba, but respected his parents' wishes. He looked at Abba with a heavy heart and said, "Abba, I'm sorry. My mother won't accept our marriage. I must honor my family's decision." Abba felt her heart shatter. She had hoped that Dubi would see beyond the curse, but she understood his decision. With tears in her eyes, she nodded and quietly left Dubi's home. She returned to the village of Dodo, feeling the weight of the curse once more. Though her heart was heavy, Abba continued to live in Tajanda, holding on to hope that one day she would find someone who could love her despite the curse. She remained strong and continued her daily life, always kind and gentle despite the pain in her heart. After her heartbreak with Dubi, Abba felt the weight of the curse more than ever. She was sad and weary of always being pushed away by it. Desperately seeking a solution, Abba decided to return to Zinga's shrine. She hoped that the powerful spirit could help her find peace and break the curse that haunted her. Abba entered the shrine and knelt before Zinga's altar once more, her heart heavy. She pleaded, "Great Zinga, the curse placed upon me is causing so much pain. Please help me break free from it so I can find happiness and be rid of this burden." Zinga appeared in a gentle light. The spirit listened to Abba's prayer and saw the sincerity in her eyes. "Abba, you have suffered greatly because of this curse," Zinga said softly. "I can lift the curse, but there is one condition. You must always remain calm and never let anger take over your heart. If you allow anger to consume you, the curse will return and it will be even stronger." Abba nodded eagerly, her eyes filled with hope. "I promise, Zinga, I will stay calm and keep my heart pure. Please, lift the curse," she vowed. With a gentle wave of Zinga's hand, a warm breeze surrounded Abba. She felt the burden on her shoulders lighten as the curse faded away. A newfound sense of freedom and hope washed over her. Abba thanked Zinga with all her heart and returned to the village of Dodo, determined to live a good and fulfilling life. Back in the village, Abba resumed her daily life. She sold goods at the market and greeted everyone with her usual kindness. The villagers admired her beauty and calm demeanor. They knew nothing of the curse or the struggles she had faced, but they could see that she was a gentle and serene soul. Abba felt lighter, knowing the curse was gone. She always remembered her promise to Zinga, keeping her emotions in check and remaining calm in every situation. She hoped that one day she would meet someone who could love her for who she truly was, unburdened by her past. One warm afternoon, Abba went to the village stream to fetch water. As she sat on a rock, reflecting on her life and the challenges she had faced, she felt a deep sadness. She missed having someone to share her life with. As she sat there, a gentle voice called out, "Are you all right, Abba?" She looked up and saw a kind man standing by the water. He had a warm smile and gentle eyes. "My name is Chiba," he said as he stepped closer. "You look sad, and I just wanted to make sure you're okay." Abba felt warmth from his kindness. "Thank you, Chiba," she replied softly. They talked for a while, and Abba found herself opening up to him. Chiba listened carefully and comforted her. making her feel at ease. Over the following days, Chiba and Abba met frequently at the stream. They talked and laughed, and Abba felt a bond forming between them. Chiba was kind and understanding, never prying into her past. He simply enjoyed her presence and made her feel valued. One day, Chiba said to Abba, "I care about you, Abba. You are an incredible person, and I want to be with you." Abba was surprised. She felt a mix of hope, fear, and a bit of happiness. She hesitated, remembering the curse and the heartbreaks of her past, but Chiba's sincerity touched her heart. Finally, Abba said, "I like you too, Chiba, but I've been through so much. Are you sure you want to be with me?" Chiba nodded with a smile. "I'm sure, Abba. Let's build a life together." And so, they grew closer. Chiba treated Abba with respect and care, and she found herself becoming more attached to him. They spent time together, and their bond deepened. Before long, Chiba proposed to Abba, wanting to make her his wife and share a life of happiness together. With joy in her heart, Abba accepted his proposal. They began planning their wedding, dreaming of a future filled with love and happiness. For the first time in a long while, Abba felt true hope. She believed that with Chiba, she could finally find the peace and love she had been searching for. The entire village of Dodo eagerly awaited the upcoming wedding, and Abba felt a warm happiness, hoping this would be the beginning of a beautiful new chapter in her life. The wedding day of Abba and Chiba arrived, and the village of Dodo was filled with joy. Everyone gathered in the village square, decorated with vibrant flowers and bright flags. The villagers danced, sang, and celebrated, delighted to see Abba and Chiba together. The air was filled with happiness and laughter as they exchanged their vows under the warm sun. Abba looked radiant in her beautiful dress, and Chiba couldn't stop smiling. They promised to love and cherish each other amid cheers and blessings from the villagers. It was a perfect day, and everyone could feel the love and happiness in the air. As night fell, the couple returned to their new home, ready to start their life together. But as they prepared to rest, something strange happened. Abba began to feel uneasy. Her body felt different, and a cold shiver ran down her spine. She looked at Chiba with worried eyes. Suddenly, Abba's body started to change. Her legs fused together, her skin became scaly, and before they knew it, she had transformed into a giant snake. Chiba's eyes widened in shock and fear. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Overcome with fear, Chiba screamed and ran out of the house. He stumbled through the village, shouting for help. The villagers, hearing his cries, quickly gathered around their home. They saw Chiba pale and trembling, pointing toward the house. Cautiously, the villagers approached, and there, slithering out of the door, was the giant snake. They gasped in astonishment and stepped back, murmuring in fear and confusion. They had never seen anything like this before. Some of the elders whispered, "Is this the curse we've heard about?" The village was suddenly engulfed in fear. They were terrified of the giant snake, but also remembered the kind-hearted Abba they knew. The village square, which had been filled with laughter and music just hours earlier, was now a scene of shock and fear. The elders quickly gathered and decided to call Orumi, hoping to understand what was happening. The villagers assembled in the square, whispering and wondering about Abba and the giant snake she had turned into. Orumi, a wise figure who had guided the village through many mysteries, arrived. The elders and villagers stood in a circle, waiting for answers. Orumi stepped forward and asked Abba to come forth. The giant snake slowly slithered to the center, and with a deep sigh, Abba began to speak, her voice full of regret. "I am Abba," she began. "I come from a family in the forest. I am the only one who can take on a human form. My parents never wanted me to marry a human because they feared it would bring trouble. They tried to scare away anyone who came close to me. But I wanted a normal life, to find love and happiness like everyone else. So, I severed my ties with my family, but they cursed me, saying I would never find true happiness with a human. The villagers listened, and their fear gradually turned into sympathy. They had always known Abba to be a kind and gentle person. The village elders looked to Orumi, who nodded solemnly, acknowledging the truth in Abba's words. Orumi then turned to Chiba. "Chiba, do you have something you wish to say?" they asked gently but firmly. Chiba, still trembling and ashamed, stepped forward. He hesitated, but under Orumi's steady gaze, he finally spoke. "Yes, I have something to confess," he said, his voice shaky. "I was drawn to Abba because of her beauty and kindness, but I also had other intentions. I thought I could use her to gain wealth and power. I had planned to take her money and leave her once I got what I wanted." A gasp of disbelief rippled through the crowd. The villagers were shocked by Chiba's confession, as they had always seen him as a kind and caring person. The village elders looked at him with disappointment, and Orumi let out a deep sigh. "You planned to betray Abba's trust and use her for your own gain," Orumi said solemnly. Orumi continued, "This is a grave mistake. Abba only wanted a normal life and love, but you saw her as a means to achieve your own goals." Chiba hung his head in shame, unable to meet the eyes of the villagers. The truth had been revealed, and it was a painful reality for everyone. Orumi and the village elders now had to decide what would happen next. The villagers watched, their hearts heavy with the weight of the truth, as they waited for Orumi's judgment. They held their breath as Orumi stood in the center of the village square, lost in deep thought. After a moment of silence, Orumi finally spoke, their voice calm yet firm. Abba sought a life of peace and love, while Chiba tried to use her for his own gain. Orumi began, "In this world, actions have consequences. Chiba, you cannot escape the responsibility of your intentions and actions." Turning to Chiba, who was trembling, Orumi declared, "You cannot be free from Abba. You must stay with her as her husband. This is the consequence of your deceit and the lesson you must learn. You sought to use her, but now you will live with the one you intended to betray. This is your punishment." A murmur spread through the crowd. The villagers were shocked by Orumi's decision. They hadn't expected such a judgment. Many felt sympathy for Abba, who had already endured so much and were uncertain about Chiba's fate. However, they respected Orumi's wisdom and knew that the judgment was both fair and just. Chiba looked devastated. He realized the gravity of his actions and the consequences he now had to face. He glanced at Abba, still in her serpent form, her eyes filled with sadness and acceptance of her fate. Chiba knew he had no choice but to accept Orumi's decision. Orumi raised a hand to silence the murmurs. This union now stands as a reminder of the importance of sincerity, respect, and genuine intent. Chiba and Abba will leave the village of Dodo together. They must face the challenges ahead as they try to find a new path, wherever it may lead them. The villagers nodded, understanding the weight of Orumi's words. They knew that Chiba's punishment was not just for him, but also a lesson for everyone about the consequences of deceit and the value of true love. After Orumi's judgment, in the solemn atmosphere, the villagers began to disperse, whispering to one another about the events of the day. Chiba and Abba, now bound by fate and Orumi's decision, prepared to leave the village. It was a difficult and uncertain path ahead, but they knew they had to face it together. The village of Dodo would remember this story for a long time, as a tale of love, betrayal, and the quest for redemption. The villagers watched as Chiba and Abba left, some with sympathy and others with curiosity. It was a somber farewell, knowing that the two would have to face an uncertain future together. Chiba and Abba walked toward the forest where Abba's family lived. As they entered the dense woods, the air felt different, more than just magical and mysterious. Chiba felt a surge of anxiety, unsure of what lay ahead. Abba, still in her snake form, led the way. Eventually, they reached a hidden clearing where Abba's family resided. As they arrived, the members of Abba's family, each with their own unique form, emerged. Some had animal-like features, while others resembled more mythical and enigmatic beings. They watched silently as Abba and Chiba approached. Chiba, feeling the weight of his actions, stepped forward and bowed his head. "I apologize for my intentions," he said, his voice sincere. "I wanted to use Abba for my own gain, but I have learned my lesson. I accept Orumi's judgment and humbly ask for the forgiveness of Abba's family." Abba's parents, who had been worried about her, listened carefully. They could see the remorse in Chiba's eyes and the sincerity in his voice. After a moment of silence, Abba's mother spoke. "We can see that you are truly sorry, Chiba. We forgive you, but know that living here will not be easy. You must respect our way of life and take care of Abba." Chiba nodded gratefully. "I understand and will do my best," he promised. With that, Abba's family accepted him into their world. They welcomed him, not as a perfect man, but as someone willing to learn and grow. Chiba had to adapt to a life very different from what he knew in the village. The forest creatures were kind and gentle, but they had their own ways of living and unique customs. Chiba worked hard to fit in, learning about the magical world and the responsibilities that came with it. Abba, now free to be herself, sometimes remained in her human form, while at other times she transformed into a snake or took on an entirely different shape. Chiba gradually learned to understand and accept her in all her forms. Together, they found a new rhythm of life, far from the noise and rush of the village. Over time, Chiba learned to appreciate the beauty and tranquility of the forest. He became a part of Abba's family, helping them and sharing in their way of life. He accepted his fate and made the most of his new life, finding moments of joy and peace. Abba, too, felt a sense of belonging and acceptance. She was with her family and had someone who chose to stay by her side despite the challenges. Together, they found a new kind of happiness, different from what they had once imagined, but enough to be fulfilling. They learned that love and acceptance could come in many forms, and they embraced the life they had, finding contentment in their new home within the magical forest.